Hi, Sean Darling here, and today in Moho we're going to be making what I call the stupid simple character. Here we go.
We're gonna learn animation in Moho and animate everything in Moho. It's easier than using any yo-yo, yeah. Now it's time to learn to use Moho.
All right, so what I'm going to do first is assume that you have some type of knowledge in Moho. If you do not, go back through my tutorials here in the Moho tutorial category, that particular playlist, and you'll find everything you need to make a basic character. But today we're going to make one even more basic. So I'm going to start off with a draw shape here tool, and I'm just going to get my rectangle tool, and I'm just going to make a rectangle like so, and that's the body. We're going to go ahead and rename that layer as body. We're going to make some arms here, and I'm just going to take that same add point tool. We're going to make a new layer, a vector layer. I'm going to call this arm right, and we're just going to draw a line from here to here to here and press enter, and then we have that line. I'm going to make that a little bit fatter by selecting my select shape tool, selecting that arm, and bringing the stroke width up to something around here. In fact, let's go back to the body layer, select it, and make sure we turn stroke on, and we can thicken that up to kind of match that body layer. And then we're going to take that arm right layer here, right click, going to duplicate that layer. We're going to change the name to arm left. And I am going to come up here to the flip horizontally and flip that, and then move it over to the other side. I'm going to right click it. I'm going to duplicate that layer again. We're going to call this leg right. And I'm going to bring it down. We're going to rotate it somewhat like that. Can make it longer if we want to. I'm just going to click away and then grab the points and adjust those slightly to be more leg proportional. And then we're going to right click that layer, duplicate it again, name it leg left. And we're going to go up here with that selected. Let's go ahead and select the layer here. And we're going to move the origin, the set origin, to the base of the leg. We're going to go back to the layer. We're going to click here in the flip layer horizontal and move that over. Now we have both of our legs with our pivot point correct. Before we move on, let's go ahead and select the body and select our set origin and put that somewhere near the base here. We're going to do the same with the arm. So arm right, we need to click it at the base of the shoulder. Arm left, same thing. Now we're going to come up to the top. We're going to click on a new layer. We're going to call that head. And we're going to come over here to our create shape or draw shape. We're going to make a circle. And I'm just going to go about like that large. Move this around now a little bit. And we're going to come down to the select shape tool and select it. We're going to turn on the stroke. And that's good. And now if we want to put a neck, we can. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Make a new layer, vector, call it neck. We're going to drag that below the head and below the body, in my opinion. And we're going to go ahead and just draw a little line here with the add point tool from here to here to here. Just give it 3 so we can adjust the shape of the neck if we want. Gives us enough points to do that. However far the head may be away from the body or whatever. Okay, and that will be our neck. And looks like the width is fine. Adjust accordingly if you need to. We're also going to grab the set origin tool. We're going to set that at the base of the neck, somewhere about here. And on the head, we need to set its origin point about where the neck meets the head, so somewhere right there. So this is pretty much the basic character. We can adjust this a little bit. We could add a face if we want, but I'm going to add some new points right here to the body. And we're just going to grab, let's say, pull this in a little here from the sides. We're going to grab the points down here with our transform point tool, make that a little more narrow at the base. Then we can grab those legs. You can grab either the line like so by clicking on the line, not the points, and just move those over the same way. And now we have a very basic character. If we want to give it eyes and stuff, we can, but I think for the moment this will be fine. If we want to get fancy, we can add some hands at the end here, just a couple little circles, do the same for the feet. But for now, let's just do this guy as he is. So the first thing you're going to want to do is shift select, like so we select the head and shift select the neck. So we got all of these guys selected. We're going to right click and go group with selection. Okay, we're going to call this stupid simple man. Okay, so with that selected now, we can move the whole thing around. We want to put our origin point probably closer to the center just to have it more correct. And then once we have this layer, we need to change this layer into what's called a bone layer. So I'm going to widen this out just a little bit so you can see a little better. We're going to move this over so I can see what this is all saying. And right next to the name, we're going to right click and we're going to say convert to bone. This now makes this a special type of layer that we can add bones to. You won't see anything happen, but that's what we're doing. All right, so now we're just going to go over here to the add bone tool. We need to make sure we are on frame 0 and on that bone layer. I'm going to add a bone and we're just going to put it right here in the center. This just acts as a root bone or a handle to move the guy around. We're going to come and take the bone strength, click on that tool, and we're going to turn that all the way down by moving our mouse to the left until it's gone. There should not be any bone strength on a root bone like this. And now we're going to start adding our bones. So with that bone selected, if I make another bone, it will be automatically parented to that bone. It'll be a child of that bone, and that is what we want. So we're going to go back here to the add bone, and we're going to just drag a bone upward here. About halfway, we're going to add another bone right to here. We're going to add one for the neck, and then we're going to add one for the head. So there should be 4 bones. You can start naming these with the head bone highlighted. Right head right here at the top. We're going to press the up arrow to skip backwards or back down the chain of bones. This next one we'll call neck. If you want to, you can also just click on the select bone tool and select that next bone. I'm going to go with an up arrow and move that back down here though. With that select, you could do that, or you could just select the bone. It doesn't matter. But we're going to go with torso or chest probably. And then we're going to go up to that next bone, which is actually down, and call this abdomen. You could also call this spine 1 and 2. It doesn't matter. And this one needs to be labeled as root. All right, with the root bone selected now, if we want to add in the arms, we can click the down arrow and cycle back through those until we get to the chest, or select the select bone tool and click on that bone. We're now going to click and drag from the shoulder to the elbow, and from the elbow to the hand or the wrist. We're going to go with the up arrow or reselect the chest bone and do the same thing here to the elbow, to the hand, and go back up until we get to the root bone or select it. And then we're going to make 2 bones per leg. So one we'll click and drag here and then right here, go up, up, or select the root bone. And we're going to go from this corner to here, to the knee, to the ankle. And that's all of our bones made. Very simple. The first thing I want to do is rename these bones. So this arm upper, we're just going to call this arm upper right. The next bone down, we're going to call forearm right. And we want to do the same thing with the left arm. So this will be arm upper left and forearm left. And then we're going to do the same thing with the legs. So this will be leg upper left or thigh left. It doesn't matter. Oh, I'm sorry, right. Thigh right. And then shin right. That'll work. You could also do leg upper, leg lower. It doesn't matter. Let me just fix this. Then your thigh left and shin left. And now, if we move these bones with our Manipulate Bones tool, you'll see that they have this strength on them. And if I move this, things will start to warp, like the head's going to warp out because the arm's moving and stuff. We could leave this like this, in this way to our where our bones have strength, or we can start with just turning these down a bit, and you'll see they'll only have influence right around where they're at. This is one way to do this. We're going to just test it and show you what happens. I'm just going to pull all these strengths down to where they mostly only affect the area around their particular bones, where they're not interfering with the other strings of the other bones. We'll just get these legs way down here like this. Now for a figure like this, this actually works for the most part. It's not how I like to do it, but I just wanted to show you how this works. So now if we manipulate the bones, you can see this really just affects mainly this, but you can see right away though that my head is warping out a little bit depending upon where this arm is at, and it will do it on the other side too. We could go in here and turn the strength of the head bone up, but you'll see that when I move the head, it starts to affect the arms a little bit and so on. So the arms don't affect the head as much, but they do. If you wanted kind of a rubbery character, this works just fine. But you will get some stretching and some weirdness. This does work, but like I said, you are going to get that bit of head warping or shoulder warping depending upon what you're going to do with it. If this works for you, go with that. If we click on frame 0, we'll reset everything here in position wise. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to select bone, and I'm going to select this head bone, select its power here, and turn the power of that all the way off, and the neck, I think. The arms, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to leave the body strength on just for now, but I'm going to turn down the power of everything else. You can also lasso select everything and turn it all off at once if you want, but these are all just going to be turned all the way off. Now, what that means is when I move these, the body will work fine for that being the way it is. But the arms and stuff obviously are not going to work the way they should, because these are all set to 0, and they're counting on different strength of bones that we're not even using. So here's how we fix that. I'm going to select, let's say, the head bone, and right now I want everything about the head to move when I move that head bone. So we're going to try a different option here and come down to the layer of the head. Click on it, and now we have this tool right here. Obviously the select bone tool we just used, but right below it is the bind points. So we're going to click on that. Now nothing's going to happen, but it allows us to select the points we want to use, like those, and then tell it to bind those points to that bone we already had selected. So now those points are bound to that bone. If we go to our Manipulate Bones tool here again, it's moved over here just because we have a layer selected. If we select the bone layer, these tools will move up to the top. But right now it's down here, this Manipulate Bones tool. And we move this, you can see the head moves when that bone is moved and nothing else. If I move the body, whatever's going to move with that's going to move with it, but the head is not affected by that anymore because it's totally bound to that one bone. So now if we do the neck the same way, we take this neck bone and highlight it, and then we say over here on the neck layer, you have to make sure you do select the layer, and we say now bind points. We want to select what points we want to bind to that bone, right? If we do all three, the problem is they will move when that line, when that bone is moved, the entire line will move. But in this case, I do want this top point bound to that head bone, to where when the head moves, the top part of that line does move. And that would give us more natural movement. Plus, I want to anchor this bottom point to the body so that when the bone of the neck moves, it moves, but it's the top point is bound to the head, the bottom point is bound to the body to where it gives it more of a natural movement. This will make more sense here in a second. So I'm going to take the select bone tool and select the head bone. We're going to go to the bind points tool, and we're now going to select just this top point, and we're going to go to bind points, which will bind that point only to that head bone. So different layers can be bound to different bones and vice versa at the same time. So we're going to come down here to the select bone tool and select the neck bone. I'm going to come over to the bind points tool and now select that middle point of that line, which you can barely see here. I'm going to bind that to the neck bone. And you would think, well, why don't you bind this point to the neck bone also? Well, we want it to be anchored to the body to where when the neck moves, it never breaks away from the body for any reason. So if I come down here now and select the select bone tool and select the chest bone, if we come down and select the bind points tool and select just that point we want to bind to that bone and click bind points, now it will be set up correctly. And you can see when I move my manipulate bones tool that the head bone is going to move the head. And if I pull farther, it's going to pull the neck as well. And right now, if this is a little farther apart, you can see the neck is actually going to bend when the head leans over. And also, if we move the neck, it's going to actually bend with the body. And a good way to see this is if I were to separate these out a little more. But trust me, that is the best way to set those up. The body is okay set this way. You'll see in a minute how that works better because it just gives us this natural bend. A shape this simple works, but I will go back and show you guys how to do this with the bind points method as well. For a character this simple though, you can get away with it. But let's move on to the other parts. And we're going to take the arm here and we're going to come over here to our arm right layer. And you can see this is just made of 3 points right now. So if I move this arm, you can see that the layer isn't moving, but we need to bind the points to these bones the same. The way I would do this is I would bind this first point to the body. Then the second point I would bind to this bone that's highlighted because it would sort of bind it to this elbow. And then the third point I would bind to the tip or to this forearm bone. You can get away with just those 3 points, believe it or not, binding to a rig. It may give you a little of a bendy joint, but you could just add another point here on your line to actually bind that also to the forearm and get rid of that bend if you didn't like it. All right, so what I'm going to do is we're just going to take that chest bone now. We're going to select it, and we're going to bind that first point of the arm to it. So with the chest bone highlighted, bind points, we're going to grab that first point of that arm right layer and bind points to the chest. You won't see much of a difference now if I were to move the arm because all we've done is bind that very first point to something that it's already connected to. So now we're going to come back here and we're going to select the arm bone and that we've got selected here. Let me just reselect it. Then we're going to come down to the bind points tool and we're going to select the middle point of this arm line. And we're going to say bind points, which is going to bind that point of this line on that layer to this bone. If we were to move it now, just to give you an idea, it would do this. Okay. This one's not bound to anything yet. That's why. Okay. So we'll go back, hit frame 0 to reset that. We're going to click on the select bone tool and select it. And we're going to select the bind points button. And we're going to select that last point because we have that layer selected. And we're going to click on bind points. Now, when we move our manipulate bones tool, you can see this all does work. There's no warping other than the arm itself being a bit bendy. Like I said, you can add more points to this line and bind those to that particular bone, and this will become less bendy. But it's got a kind of a cool, simple hand-drawn look this way, so we'll leave that. We're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to click on the select bone tool. We're going to select the chest bone. We're going to select the arm left layer, and we're going to select the bind points tool. We're going to have the chest bone already selected. And now we're going to select that first point, and we're going to click bind points, which will bind this shoulder point to the chest bone. If we select the select bone tool, we select the arm bone, we can now go to bind points, and we're going to select that middle point at the elbow that we're going to bind to this upper arm. We just click on bind points, and that is done. We're going to now click on the select bone tool, select the next bone, select the bind points button to enable the tool. We're now going to select that last point, and we're going to click on bind points. That will bind those points to that selected bone. So now when we move our arms with the manipulate bones tool, you can see this one works perfectly. And so does this one, and so does our head and neck, and so does that upper body. The legs are not working yet, but that is easy enough to fix. So something we're going to need to do, you can see when I move the body around, this may work out, on its own because things will be bound to the legs. But this bottom edge here, we really want to bind that to the root bone. So the way I would do that is come over here to the body layer, click on 0 to reset everything. We're going to come over here and grab our select bone tool, select the root bone, and then we're going to come here to the bind points tool, and we're going to select the bottom 2 points, and we're going to select bind points. Now when we move this bone with the manipulate bones tool, you can see that moves our entire body with that. Okay. Now what that also means is when we move our lower body now, you can see that these points stay static with the root bone. Now you don't have to have that. If you don't like that effect, that is totally fine. All right, so with those bottom corner points bound to the root bone, we move this, everything works. Eventually we will move the legs here, and you can see that they will stay bound and not move the pelvis, which is really what we want. We're actually going to grab the root bone, and we're going to come down here, make sure we have the leg selected, leg layer. We're going to bind this top point to our root bone, and then we're going to come down to the leg bone, and we're going to go to our bind points. We're going to select the middle point, and we're going to go bind points. That way when we move the leg now, you can see that it moves, and then this portion of the leg here stays bound to the body. All right, so now we're going to select the next bone down, and we're going to go to our bind points tool and select the last point and click bind points. And then we're going to jump over to the other leg, because you can see when we move this leg, it's pulling this one around because these points don't have anything bound that they're bound to, and it doesn't know really what to do. It's trying to it's being mildly affected by this other leg movement. So we're going to swap over here to leg left, and we're going to come over here and select the bone, and we're going to make sure we have our root bone selected, and we're going to go to the bind points tool, and we want to select this top point here. We're going to go to bind points. Now, if you're wondering how I'm lassoing, there's just a little checkbox right here at the top called lasso mode, and that way it switches between marquee select and a lasso mode. So just go to bind points and bind that one to the root bone. We're going to now select the thigh bone, and we're going to come down to bind points, and we're going to make sure we grab the knee point. Remember, make sure your left leg is highlighted. We're going to click on bind points. We're going to go to our select bone tool again, select the leg bone, the lower leg. We're going to go to bind points, and we're going to select that last point and then click bind points. I think that the bind points tool and the bind points button are confusing. I almost want to call the bind points tool something else personally, because I think that's confusing, or just called bind points bind or something, just so there's a little differentiation, because when I first learned this myself, I was very confused what order you do this in. Obviously, you select the bone you want to bind your points to, then you select the bind points tool, and then you go select your points and then click bind points. to bind those points to that bone. It seems like a lot of steps. It makes sense to me now, but it's very confusing, I know, if you've never done it before. So now we'll go to the Manipulate Bones tool and check, and you can see that our legs move as expected, and we're good to go. So this is what I consider a super stupid, simple, simple, not super stupid, but super stupid, simple way to make a character. And I plan on doing more videos right away. Even today, we'll get these uploaded for things that we can do to this character to advance him. But I just wanted to give you the idea of how this is done in a really, really simple way. And we'll do some advanced ones on the next one. All right, cool. Thanks for watching. Right, I hope you guys enjoyed that. This was a really, literally stupid, simple character to do. I'm not even sure how long we've been working on it. Less than a half an hour easily. And I just wanted to show you guys how easy it was to make a very, very stupidly simple character, but also to show you how to build it, rig it, and get it ready for doing some animations. So we're going to wind up doing some videos that are advancing on this same character. After this, we'll probably be posting those today too. And we'll add in some facial features, hands, feet, maybe how to do a quick head turn with it, and then do some animating. So cool. Stick around. We'll check out the other videos.